The subreddit Interesting AF is for posting photos that are inherently extremely interesting either by themselves or through the context in which they were taken. So here's some of the top posts. This is a photo from 1996 referencing when Ukraine handed over their nuclear weapons to Russia, obviously relating that to the irony of the invasion of Ukraine. The next post, this person took a photo of a fox just sleeping on their porch. So you can see there's quite an immense variety of photos in the subreddit. It just has to be super interesting. And here, this person's pet turtle follows them out to seek affection, which is not considered normal behavior for turtles. Here, a person posts a photo comparing the natural versus what has been bred into French bulldogs, with the more natural phenotype being attempted to be brought back here by a breeder. This post talks about these wavy walls that you can see in England and in many other places that look to be just decorative, but they're actually for structural reasons. And this one, I thought it had to be AI at first, but it was posted 5 years ago, so I assume the person might have used Photoshop or something like that, and they made a modernized version of George Washington. He looks a little too young to run for Congress these days. And this is a really cool video of a veteran being told that his vintage watch is worth like over $500,000, and he falls to the ground in joy. And this person somehow got one of those like cranking rail carts and is just riding it on an abandoned rail track in Southern California. The video is also pretty cool. And this photo is from 6 years ago in 2020 when the Black Lives Matter was painted in DC outside the White House. And finally, of course, a cat to round it out. These people couldn't find their cat until they checked the baby camera and it was sitting with their child here. The subreddit Mildly Interesting is for people to post photos of things that are kind of interesting, but not like too crazy or anything. And I kid you not, I am banned from this subreddit for posting stuff that was either too interesting or not interesting enough. But let's look at some of the top posts. This is a Mexican restaurant that painted over the panda wall art of the prior Chinese restaurant with sombreros. This guy found someone else that looked like him and was wearing the same jacket. This person found the original cliff that's on the art on a Cliff Bar. And this person put a pine cone in their shower and noticed that it would open and close with the steam. This Taco Bell, the person noticed hadn't been renovated since the 1990s and still had the original designs and seating. And this person's banana bunch was just a little bit too perfect. This person was staying near the Northern Lights and their phone in the hotel room had a button just to notify them to wake up if the Northern Lights became visible. And this is a photo of someone's sink where the metal finish had just started to corrode, but it ended up looking kind of like a map. This person had a note left on their laptop by library staff telling them that it could have been stolen. And this person took a photo of their dog that turned out just very artistically composed. And this person took a photo of Los Angeles with fog over it to where it looked like a badly rendered video game like GTA or something. And finally, we have Chuck E. Cheese getting arrested. Unfortunate. Mildly Interesting is for posting photos of stuff that is kind of interesting, but not too interesting. Here are the top posts from the past month. This person's waiter handed them a note noticing a mark on their arm that could mean they need to see a dermatologist. And this person paid 7-Eleven at 7-Eleven at 7-Eleven on 7-Eleven. And this person has a very crisp view of the Big Dipper out their window. This person fell on a skate ramp and left a perfect imprint of their back. And here are a pair of star-shaped prescription lenses. You can see where the lens curves. That's pretty interesting. I didn't know that was possible, honestly. And here's a single egg in a single egg carton. This one's kind of crazy. I didn't know that Trader Joe's did this, but they hand out, or at least they hide somewhere in their store, a golden ticket that allows you to skip the line. And I think this has been posted in years past where cities have done this, but this person noticed that the fire hats that are handed out at the 4th of July parade are made of paper cardboard rather than plastic like they used to. And here they noticed a spider that had gone the landlord's special. This person cut up the watermelon in a way where it fit perfectly back into the bowl. And this is like a zoomed-in photo of the dense air of a heat wave, but really shows kind of how it feels. You might need to hit the recombobulation area of the Milwaukee airport with as hot as it's been. The subreddit Not Interesting is supposed to be for people to post photos of things that are not interesting at all, but I'll let you be the judge of that. These are some of the top posts. This person's hand is the same color as a ham, and this person made their bed. And as you can see, some of these are dry, factual statements over otherwise somewhat interesting photos. This guy says one of his legs just never gets sunburnt. And this person caught a mouse with their bare hands. and people really liked the design of this cake. Meanwhile, the scan of this baby was a little bit unsettling. And this person made a sketch drawing of this little pond, but surprisingly pretty accurate. And this person realized that they have bones. While this person somehow turned a Pringles can inside out. This person texted a picture of their wife's phone to her, so she knew she left it behind. Very helpful. And this person made a video montage of a spoon that they set on the table. While this pool is shaped exactly like Colorado. This person was gifted a bath bomb by a friend, while they don't own a bathtub. And this guy has a bathtub, but was not gifted a bath bomb by a friend. This is one of the more interesting ones that I saw. This person stacked 140 Tic Tacs neatly into the container. While this person wants the community to judge which cologne smells better. Rate this person's setup and let me know which subreddit I should cover next. If you see a bird and you don't know what it is and you want to, the place to go is the subreddit What's This Bird? Not what is this bird, what's this bird? And here bird watchers, amateur and experienced, will post the unknown birds that they see in their daily lives, and the top posts are truly some both hilarious photos and some spectacularly unusual birds. Here's the very top post, and it's just truly adorable. All these little western screech owls here sitting together. And this one here is a familiar sight to me, the American kestrel, which is pretty common in New York City. This funny looking little bird is the Eurasian hoopoe, and they somehow managed to get into people's homes. This is a post from about a month ago. And then another one in Kyiv, Ukraine from only one day ago. This here was a wild turkey that showed up at someone's wedding and made itself the centerpiece. And then a mourning dove laying its classic nest in an odd location. Here's the first really unusual one, a crow with what's known as leucism, where it's lacking pigment and has a white coloration. Really weird looking. Another common one that people will post that they'll say, I found this bird in my chimney. And believe it or not, it's a chimney swift. In this one, some parrots had laid a nest in this person's roof, and one of them was breaking through the ceiling. Here's another abnormal coloration, a great gray owl with leucism on basically its full body, making it look totally white. Kind of ominous to me. And this unique-looking pigeon was identified as an Old Dutch Capuchin, which I believe is a domestic breed. And here's a great horned owl with what's known as melanism, where it has darker pigment across its entire feathers. Here's a little bit of a closer look, truly a unique-looking bird right here. And then finally, this hilarious picture of a least bittern in someone's flower bed here. The subreddit It's a Rat Snake is dedicated to this certain species of snake that's known for getting into places it shouldn't, for its relatively chill demeanor, and their behavior as pets, as well as what they call the rat snake song, which, keep in mind, is in tune with the song It's Amore, but with It's a Rat Snake. And the captions of the posts in this subreddit often adhere to this format. Let's get into it. Here's one climbing up someone's house and forming kind of a geometric pattern there on the bricks. And here's one that's snuck into a chicken coop. That seems like a pretty popular thing, but it doesn't seem that often that they're attacking the chickens. They're just kind of chilling there. I don't know why that is. Or if they eat the eggs, or if they're just waiting to eat the chicken, or what. Why do they end up in these situations? I don't know. This person's pet rat snake went missing and was found in a suitcase in their closet after a month. Can you spot the rat snake in this picture? I'll give you a second. There it is. In the place you would not expect. But this person was able to free it, and noted its cute little face here. Here's another one making a geometric pattern climbing up someone's house. And it's also a joke in the snake ID subreddits that, the common species of snake, such as the rat snake, are often mentioned, much like the it's always a night heron in birds, where people mistake them for other species somewhat often. Here's one climbing straight up someone's leg, and one that ended up in someone's house. Or maybe if it was a pet, but it ended up in their bathroom nonetheless. Here you can see another example of the rat snake song, if you haven't been keeping track thus far. But people do appreciate their cute faces very much. Here's another one with some more geometric tendencies. But I think a lot of snakes tend to do this and follow patterns on surfaces. And here's one that ended up inside of a bird feeder, which I don't know if it was just kind of spawn camping birds or if it's eating the seed. I don't know. And this person made a knitted version of a rat snake. Very cute. And here, this artwork by Bird and Moon emphasizes the difference between two very common North American snakes, the American racer and the eastern rat snake, and shows the difference in their scales and their facial structures as well. but noting that the rat snake generally has a sillier and funnier looking face. Let me know which specific subreddit I should cover next. Fat Squirrel Hate is dedicated to shaming photos of these squirrels that tend to get a little overweight when they're fed by people or they live in a city environment. And most people here are like completely joking with this, but some people get really out of hand with these captions, so I won't really be able to read most of them. And the moderators of the subreddit had to put in warnings to be like, you can't be violent and so on. So let's check out some of their top posts. Here's one holding 5 cookies at once, and one so massive it's holding a person down. Here's a Chinese species of squirrel with tufted ears. I don't know exactly what species this is, but it seems to be a tendency of these large squirrels to really stand upright, to where they kind of look like a groundhog. This, I believe, is a fox squirrel. And another fox squirrel holding an entire Dairy Queen Blizzard. These are the largest squirrel in North America. They get pretty big. And here's one chilling on the ground, just eating some kind of seed or a corn cob. And here's one somehow eating an entire avocado. This is a really big squirrel right here. And this one looks like he ate an entire avocado whole. And this one's posted up in front of a scenic view. Here's the marking of one that possibly fell off of a roof. And an incredibly rotund ground squirrel as well. Here's some that I've posted. These are some fox squirrels as well that I saw in Indiana. And here's one that I took on my camera. Look how wide. And then here's one of an eastern gray squirrel that I took in New York City, of one just chilling inside of a lasagna tray, just chowing down. Well Worn is supposed to be a subreddit dedicated to tools that have taken a beating and have been significantly worn down over years of use. Here we have a cutting board that's been gradually chopped and eroded down. It's interesting how these wooden boards can take on an almost organic shape after being chopped in this certain distribution over the years. And another popular example of well-worn tools are knives that have been sharpened down so significantly that most of the blade is missing. Most commonly, these are found at restaurants and fishmongers, but sometimes people's knives at home get this worn down. And then there's also a spoon that's been used for multiple generations here. But things other than tools also get demonstrated on this subreddit that have just been worn down significantly through heavy use. Here's a little teddy bear compared with a newer one. A clipboard where the ink on the back of a newspaper has been imprinted on it from someone playing the crossword for decades. A fake door at IKEA where people have mistakenly reached for the handle. And a service counter showing where people have slid their money and items over the paint. These bronze statues are also popular to show where the people have touched it precisely because it will be shinier where it has been rubbed. And eventually this could completely degrade a bronze statue, and this one at the Detroit Institute of Arts is intentionally set up to demonstrate that effect, where they invite people to touch it and allow it over the decades to demonstrate how touching bronze statues can basically erode them completely. Here's a rug or a doormat that's basically completely eroded into the stones, only leaving the bare fibers behind imprinted on the road. And here's a telephone pole so completely covered in staples from old signs that you can't even see the wood anymore. And someone's car paint that all of the layers have been worn off by this dog's foot hanging out the window. Lastly, people found this one pretty funny as the men's versus women's restroom door, demonstrating that men will more often reach and touch the door with their hand or elbow, leaving these marks over time, whereas women might be more likely to use the feature to push the door open with their foot at the bottom of it, or at least like right on the handle there where it wouldn't wear down. The subreddit Well Worn is to show off photos of heavily used tools and other objects that can visibly show decades of wear. Previously, we looked at the top posts of all time on here, so now I'm going to show you the top posts from this past month. Here's a D20 dice after several years of being rolled in tabletop games. It's almost turned into a sphere. And here's a closer look at it. Even the numbers are kind of worn away. And here's an antique butcher block, but it's not quite as worn down as some of the ones we looked at last time. One of those composite clipboards that's been used for at least 16 years, they say. And a shirt that's been worn down to the bare threads. This person took a photo of the computer mouse at their oil changer's desk. And here's 3 versions of the same stuffed animal, each a little bit newer than the last. But I do like these comparisons of essentially literally the same product with different stages of wear. And some people will actually go to this subreddit to try to find very durable tools and items to be able to buy that will actually last for decades. Here's someone's old wallet compared to a brand new one. As well as a more expectedly worn out, a hedge trimmer blade here. Let me know what your favorite specific subreddit is in the comments. Century Homes is for people who own, live in, or are renovating very old houses, a century or older. A lot of the popular posts on here are people showing their renovation work, the before and after of some of these old homes that have been left to kind of decay and they've been restored to a bit of glory and livability. Here's the after of the exterior of that one, and then some before and after of the interior as well. There's a term commonly used on here known as the floor lottery. When you have one of these old homes and you're starting to dress the floors, when you choose to rip out the carpet, the linoleum, or whatever is on the surface, you may get lucky and win the floor lottery and find a nice preserved hardwood floor underneath. These people found this really interesting thing known as a linoleum carpet pattern, and these people also found a very interesting design as well. Here's a really cool feature, a perpendicular set of pocket doors where 3 rooms are joined together in this one stylized entryway. Pretty cool. And like with this closure here, you can seal off one of the rooms, 2 of the rooms, or seal off all 3 of them from one another, so pretty cool. Some people just have to flex over in Europe with a 5-century-old home. I believe this is in England. And others love showing off the quality woodwork of the century homes as well, that we just don't see anymore these days. Here's a nice restoration of a bathroom, preserving some of that tile work, as well as taking this fireplace from a covering of this kind of tile back to the original brick. Pretty nice. This is a really interesting feature known as a foyer fireplace, which you wouldn't think is physically possible being underneath a wooden staircase. Like, that seems like a fire hazard, but apparently it's arranged in a way where the heat is diverted out. And it creates a really beautiful feature with that green tile there. And these folks won the ceiling lottery. They had a drop ceiling and opened it up to reveal some really nice, what looks like plaster work underneath here. Spotted is dedicated to car spotting, the act of taking photos of rare, interesting, or expensive vehicles that you see out in the wild, and then sharing them here to other car enthusiasts to comment and enjoy them. Their description says, "People often see rare or interesting vehicles that brighten their otherwise dreary days. And what a better way to express that than to share a picture of it with complete strangers." So here's some of the top posts. This is a Ferrari F40, which is one of the more popular Ferrari designs from the 1980s. And this person saw, just driving down the highway, one of the Batmobiles. And one celebrity that definitely has a high-end taste for cars is Gordon Ramsay. You'll see him driving around London with cars like this Aston Martin Valiant, as well as several Ferraris that he has as well. This car alone is valued at well over $1 million. This is the Mercedes AMG 1, which is pretty much the current top-of-the-line for speed Mercedes that you'll see. Cost around $2 million, and was made in very limited numbers as well. Another interesting one is the McLaren F1. This specific model is only a 1 of 2, worth at least $20 million US. And one thing interesting about this car is that it has one central seat that you sit in to drive, not like the 2 in the front. This is a rare special edition Lamborghini, the Sesto Elemento. I remember I used to play with this car in a racing game on my iPad as a kid. The old school Lancias, these famous kind of track and rally cars, are also very popular as well, with these very artistic colorways that they've got going. And then the classic Bugatti Veyron from 2008, parked in a random parking lot. People always make fun of those, saying like, oh, it was just casually parked here. Well, how else would something be parked? Formally? I don't know. This one was only a 1 of 1, but worth also about $20 million US, made by Bugatti. And then here's also a limited run Porsche, the 911 GT1. This is the Aston Martin Valkyrie, I believe the road edition, which actually was heavily modified from a track edition to be able to be road legal and physically able to drive on a road. And then this was a pretty funny photo. They got one of a Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit, this kind of vintage-looking brown car in the front, and then a car just blowing up in the background. And this model of car, the Ferrari 250 GTO, I believe still holds the title as the most expensive sold car, which it's taken prices around $100 million US. This one in a rare, like, green pistachio paint. Could go for higher than that, honestly. But all in all, I think the subreddit does appreciate, like, yeah, the money and the flashiness, but the design and the engineering that goes into these vehicles, as well as the timeline of history of design that comes out of these different companies. The Silver Crowns is one of my favorite coin subreddits because it's also one of my favorite categories of coins to collect. And at least on here, they're defined as coins that are at least 33 to 42 millimeters in diameter and 20 to 30 grams in weight, with at least 50% silver content. So looking at the top post, you'll understand why these are so popular to collect and why they're so cool. This is an 1885 pesetas from Peru. And then this person has an assortment of early British crowns. That top row is King George III, and then I think that the second row is Queen Anne, and then that bottom row on the left is French King Louis XV. Not certain what that bottom right one is. Here's one of the most popular crown-sized coins to collect, the 8 real, or the piece of 8. These were used as currency in the US before the US had its own mints, like in the colonies, I mean. But they were minted in the Spanish colonies, primarily with silver coming out of the Potosi mine, and out of other silver mines in South America and in Mexico as well. This is one of my favorite crown designs, the Gothic crown, and these were produced in a pretty small number. You'll see more commonly the Gothic florin, which is this design on a much smaller coin. But the lettering and detail of the design is incredibly iconic, and these coins go for thousands of dollars. This person, I believe, made their own custom album for crown-sized coins, which is like, super cool because you get all of these different countries and a catalog of all these coins that fit these requirements. Very, very interesting, and I want to do something like this for my own collection. Here's another close-up of a British crown, the reverse of it anyway, with St. George slaying a dragon. And then this person showing off their crown collection, really wide variety here from across Europe, as well as some coins towards the bottom there from China as well. Here's one of the more famous crown-sized coins from Japan. I really like these, the yen, from the late 1800s with this dragon design on it. Here's another Gothic crown. You can see the price up there. Not cheap, 4,600 US dollars, but I've seen these go for as much as 10,000. This is the Mexican silver crown from after the Spanish colonization, the Libertad, which has a really, really nice series of designs over time. And here's some of the coins that I've posted from my collection onto this subreddit. Here's my French collection, a close-up of one of the French écus that I have from 1710, and then at least how I used to have my shelf arranged with some of my crown-sized coins as well. You can see the Gothic florin there on the bottom. Silver bugs is for people who collect, stack, or just happen to find silver. Let's look at some of the top posts of all time on here. The posts with these numerical balloons are often popular, or at least they were when silver was dramatically rising last year. And this is the price per ounce that it was about 6 months ago or so. But people will also say they don't want to see the numbers in the charts, they want photos of people's silver collections or stacks. So here's some good examples. This person has a really wide variety of silver bullion coins, and this person mixes in a little bit of jewelry. It looks like they're saving up for their kid. While this person has an absolutely massive collection of, it looks like 1 ounce bars and 1 ounce coins as well. Currently, each of these is like 50 to 60 US dollars, but at its height was around $120 earlier this year. This is what's known as a monster box, which is a huge box of 1 ounce silver coins you can order from the US government. And here's a massive 700 pounds of silver laid out on a pallet, extracted from old x-rays. And sometimes people will try to spend silver coins, or this is actually a coin set into a bar with a total of 2 ounces of silver in it. And this person really spent it for $1 when this thing is worth well over $100. Here's a massive stack of bars. It looks like 1 ounce, 10 ounce, and then I don't even know if maybe a kilogram bar or something on the left there. Here's one of the common pieces of junk silver to collect in the US, the old quarters. And this person found a massive 100-ounce bar in their grandparents' house. Some people will sort through coin rolls and order bulk coin rolls from the bank to try to find old silver coins among them, but oftentimes banks actually sort them out, so. And this was a really cool piece I actually had to look up, a 3-ounce piece of silver from the USSR, but these have massive premiums. They're pretty expensive to buy, above the silver price. And this person found a 700-gram, really beautiful silver tray for only $500, which is probably less than half the value of the silver alone, let alone the artistry. One of the inside jokes on here is that people say, oh no, I lost all of my silver. I have terrible news to share with you. I lost all of my silver in a boating accident. It's all gone. As in, they're joking to make the claim that they lost their silver so they'll never have to pay a capital gains tax on it. And finally, one more huge stack. I like how this person's arranged it in like a pirate chest, along with some nice gold and a lot of silver 1-ounce coins, huge bars, and a really good variety, yeah. Specific backroom subreddits explained. Liminal space is for just posting photos of liminal spaces that you might encounter in your daily life. The description says, a liminal space is the time between the what was and the next. It's a place of transition, waiting, and not knowing. And here's one of their top posts. This does look pretty much kind of like the conceptual idea of the backrooms. The night feeling is for the liminal space feeling that you get when walking around outside at night and everything's kind of empty. Here's their top post from there. Backrooms is for talking about kind of the broader Backrooms universe and the online wiki world building. And the Backrooms is a role-playing subreddit, which is pretty popular in that broader concept of the wiki Backrooms. Kane Pixel's Backrooms is about Kane Pixel's broader Backrooms YouTube series, and then now the movie that's come out. And then Backrooms Film is for analyzing just the movie. And submechanophobia is the fear of partially or fully submerged man-made objects, and this subreddit is dedicated to posting images of these, to give people that sort of creepy feeling. Obviously, some of the more popular images are those of the Titanic and its shipwreck very far beneath the sea that look just super eerie after having sat there for so long. And not far away lies the remains of the Ocean Gate sub as well. And the photos that came out of its cracked shell are pretty eerie. Some of these posts also bring awareness to major environmental catastrophes going on deep underwater that are also pretty unsettling in addition to just straight up harmful. While this is an art installation put underwater at a lake to intentionally creep people out. And this one, I'd recommend to go watch the video. It's someone diving a shipwreck, which I've done before actually, and a container ship passes overhead, completely stirring up the water, and they have to like hold on for dear life. It's really terrifying. And here's one of the interior of the Titanic with a before and after. And also, you can see a handful of submerged objects on Google Maps, such as this car where they discovered the site where someone had died that had been under there for decades. As well as the idea that due to just spillage off the side of ships and container ship wrecks additionally, there's quite a number of containers just under the seafloor, or at least sitting on the seafloor, possibly creating reefs or just kind of leaving a time capsule deep underwater. This sign gives people a warning to avoid an underwater cave without training. And this is true. Cave diving is pretty incredibly dangerous, especially certain caves more than others where they have more tidal currents kind of flowing in and out where it can smash you up against the rocks or trap you in certain areas. Definitely not a warning to take lightly. This one's kind of eerily beautiful, the underwater reservoir underneath Paris. They have quite a number of crazy underground structures underneath Paris, like the catacombs and this as well. And then this one's not actually underwater, but it's a deep dive pool that's been emptied out and just looks kind of like the back rooms. And then here's one that I posted, not as exciting, but if you're walking along any small waterways in New York City, you'll oftentimes see submerged metal pipes or just rusty objects that are kind of unsettling. The Depths Below is a subreddit dedicated to people's fear of the deep ocean and the creatures that may live in there. Its description says 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, according to NOAA. This gives only 29% where we're safe. If an animal the size of a blue whale can disappear for months at a time, what else is down there? So here's some of their top posts. The blue whale is certainly one of the more popular images. I'm sure you may have seen this video of one coming up to surface. They are just insanely large. It's hard to comprehend. And another blue whale completely underwater. This person pointed out the weird W-shaped pupil of a cuttlefish. I do like cuttlefish, definitely one of my favorite animals. This person posted a photo of a lionfish, which I believe they're native to the Pacific but highly invasive in the Atlantic. And when I was scuba diving in Cozumel, the dive master would literally stab these when he found them. This looks like some other kind of whale. I can't quite tell what it is, swimming above people who are diving. This would be insane. And here's an elusive oarfish coming up to the shore, which is very unusual. Reminds me of Animal Crossing. And here's one of those deep sea cameras showing a critter. I'm not sure exactly what this is, 10,000 meters below the surface. Anglerfish are also incredibly popular here as they're kind of a charismatic fish of the deep ocean. They're just super creepy looking. And one of their top posts is this sand dollar. It's a video of its small legs on the underside moving. It's very trippy looking. And here there's some type of large octopus coming up to touch this person's feet. I would think it was my last day on Earth. Meanwhile, we have this very beautiful firework jellyfish 4,000 feet below the sea, as well as an octopus snagging a shark, which makes you think of all the crazy animal interactions that happen in the deep ocean that we'll never know about. Another anglerfish, but this user posted that their daughter is obsessed with anglerfish and wants to dress up as one, and the comments were providing advice on this. Here's a grouper swimming through a shipwreck, and then you can see its size in proportion to this toilet on the left, like it's huge. Here's a giant sturgeon. I believe these were popular on river monsters. And then finally, someone's painting of a giant seal. The subreddit The Night Feeling is kind of a liminal space subreddit, but it's also kind of its own thing in many ways. It describes itself as the thoughtful, nostalgic emotion you feel when you drive alone at night or see a city skyline at dusk with the wind in your face. It's the feeling you get when you're lonely but at peace, thoughtful but melancholy, and homesick for something you can't quite remember. As you can see, I changed my Reddit into night mode due to popular demand and for this subreddit. But it'll be like this ongoingly. Here's a photo from Italy, as well as a photo from 1977 New York at sunset when it had a power outage where the whole skyline went dark. You could just see the outline. You definitely get this feeling when you're alone at a gas station, especially in a rural area like this, as well as taking the train at night. I definitely got this feeling taking the high-speed train in China. I took it overnight, and seeing an unfamiliar countryside in that kind of lighting was a very weird feeling, definitely. Here's the Aurora Borealis over a house in the Scottish Highlands, pretty interesting, as well as someone overlooking, I believe, Rio de Janeiro here. Here's an apartment block in winter in Russia, but it looks like it's right on a coast or on a lake, so there's just a barren plain of snow behind it. And here's a photo from nighttime in Japan. I love the diversity of the photos in this subreddit, and the idea that this feeling is not location specific necessarily, but more really just specific to the nighttime and certain kind of eerie aesthetics that you can capture. This person's in Bulgaria, and here's one from Old Montreal. The lighting after a rain definitely contributes to effective photos of this genre. And this person is, I believe, in Pittsburgh. You can see the night feeling vibe in a more suburban or row home setting as well. It's definitely not exclusive to cities. I thought this was super interesting. It's saying that Flagstaff, Arizona recently replaced all their streetlights with amber LED lights, and it creates this kind of retro amber lighting look. I presume to reduce light pollution. Here's some of my favorite photos that I've posted on this subreddit. This one I took from the walkway on the Brooklyn Bridge, and this one from the small graveyard outside of Trinity Church, I believe. And train yards at night also definitely have this distinct feeling. Let me know if you had a favorite photo among these and what specific subreddit I should cover next. The subreddit The Night Feeling is dedicated to the odd sense of nostalgia that you can get while looking out at certain scenery or walking around at night. And I posted about this one yesterday, but I post quite a lot in here because I live in New York City and I'm able to take a lot of photos that fit into this category, so I just want to run through some of my own submissions to The Night Feeling. This is the one I showed you yesterday that I took from the walkway of the Brooklyn Bridge at night. Not even a single car on the road. You can't often get it with no cars, so. And here's some I took in Lower Manhattan among the really large skyscrapers in the financial district. Some of these are kind of new, and their geometric shapes, sheer faces, and kind of odd lighting create a unique environment in itself. And it starts feeling almost surreal when you have a lot of these kind of object-like buildings around. Here's a more classic building. I believe this one is currently the Native American Museum. But then this is the World Trade Center at night. It's just lit up red in this instance. I think it changes colors, but the red color was giving me a certain eerie vibe as well. And here's the front entrance to it as well. I'm glad I could get these photos with no people in them. I really don't know how late it was that I was walking around here, but this is St. Paul's Chapel in Lower Manhattan as well. You can see the World Trade Center on the left. But I really liked the kind of amber lighting of this photo. In this one I noted that the sheer faces of buildings kind of add to the uncanniness sometimes of the night feeling. This one I took in Brooklyn, kind of fading away into the fog there. It looks like the building goes on forever. And then another very sheer-faced building in Manhattan. This post I talked about how seeing like certain extreme luxury cars at night or in the middle of the night kind of makes me wonder, what these people are doing and what it feels like to drive such a vehicle, at night. These are some Rolls Royces, but the nighttime lighting does create a good look on many of these. This one I took from Central Park of the Billionaires Row buildings. They kind of just look strange and surreal in many ways. And then finally, I think this is my favorite that I've taken in this category. Looking down what is, I believe, 7th Avenue, but the combination of this lighting plus the guy that looks like he's just kind of sitting and contemplating, I think makes it an ideal photo for this category. That's supposed to blend kind of the weird, eerie feeling with a kind of warm, calm nostalgia as well. Desire Path is a subreddit dedicated to footpaths. The description here says, dedicated to the paths that humans prefer, rather than the paths that humans create. Here you can see a prime example of what I'm talking about with these organically formed paths often cutting through grass and leaving part of the dirt dry and exposed where it's been packed down. In this instance, it was created just by one person pacing back and forth repeatedly. And I think the most appealing ones are where they're right next to an existing paved path, just showing that no matter how well done or formal the paved path is, people are going to prefer what's most convenient and walk along this what's called a desire path. And some trail-based apps, such as Pokemon Go, will actually map these out right on the map there. And there's kind of a joke that you really can't prevent people from taking these paths, no matter what you do. And this user made a comic demonstrating this effect. You can pause to look through it here, it's pretty funny. But people will put up shrubs, fences, whatever to try to prevent the paths, but it just doesn't work. In some instances, the desire paths were turned into formal paths, such as this example on a college campus, and this example in someone's backyard. This was pretty interesting. The little ant pheromone trail you can barely see on the ground is a sort of a desire path of a kind. And then here you have another example of one being paved. And oftentimes, especially in the US, they'll pop up in places where there's not a sidewalk just parallel to the road. This was one of my favorites where people didn't want to walk underneath this pole here, so they formed this path going around it. And here you can see that the desire path angle really matches up between summer and winter. People can kind of automatically tell what the ideal angle to walk is for some reason. Or maybe it's just the same person that gets out really early in the morning and sets the trend at first when it snows. This one was very sweet. Someone's dog had basically created a desire path from running out and back from the yard, but it remained in the grass years after the dog had passed away. And then finally here, I believe this clip was taken in Russia. This guy on a scooter here managed to escape the police by taking a desire path where the car couldn't follow him. Thousands of localities around the world have their own dedicated subreddits for the communities to share photos, news, and what's ever going on in their community. But oftentimes the top posts are people that live there just making fun of it. So these are the top posts from my hometown of Lexington, Kentucky. The very top post was a photo from the No Kings protest, which was held in the downtown area. The politics of the city are very interesting because it's largely a Democrat stronghold in the interior of the city, which is a population of about 300,000, which isn't big enough for a congressional district, so it's tied in together with the surrounding counties, which are heavily Republican, so then it averages out to be like nearly 50-50 in certain races and certain party line things, which is pretty weird. This person in the community was helping them resolve a plagiarism issue with the local university. And here the fire department's addressing a blaze atop an apartment building. This is close to where I used to live, and their ladder falls off and just crashes into the power line. This one's just a person's dog. This, I think, is the top post from this year. This person built an igloo in their yard. And this sign, of course, relating to Trump, I saw when I was home a few months back. Another photo from the No Kings protest that shows the historic City Hall building, which is a really, really nice piece of architecture there. People also love making fun of this sculpture that is put in front of the courthouse a couple years back, and it cost the city about $1 million, and people absolutely love making fun of this thing. People also enjoy the joke that the skyscraper, the frankly one skyscraper in Lexington, is the tallest building in the world. Really, it only sits at about 400 feet. And Lexington's traffic is also considered one of the worst in the country for a city of its size, so people lamenting this traffic is certainly a popular topic on the subreddit. This person jokes that the Google Maps overview of straight red around the city roads should be the logo of the sub. And also, those Lexingtonians who are able to visit Japan, try to visit the UK Wildcats Cafe, which is dedicated to the sports team of the college in Lexington, Kentucky. Does your hometown have its own subreddit? Let me know which one I should feature next. Shower Orange is dedicated to eating oranges and other citrus fruits while taking a shower. Now, I say citrus fruits because they outlaw grapefruits for some reason, as well as having other rules to keep it PG. But apparently the experience of being able to peel and eat an orange while in the shower is actually quite nice, and now I'm almost wanting to try it. People say that you're able to just peel the orange, set the peel down, and rinse your hands off as you go. This person also emphasizing the fact that the essential oils from the orange peel get steamed in the shower and create a nice smell. So people all around the world will do this now. This person's in Iraq. And some people will also enjoy orange juice. And this person's using like a shower cup holder for an orange here. This is one of the top posts, I think because there's just a duck in the background. And this person's eating orange Takis, which has to be against the rules. And this person's soaking the peels to get that essential oil smell going. Here's the logo of the sub. And one of the main inspirations, this capybara just chilling in an orange bath. This person just posts an orange shower. And finally, an orange cat in the shower. The subreddit Mildly Infuriating is for people to post photos of things in their daily lives that are mild inconveniences, and for others to share in these troubles with them. These are some of the recent top posts. So this person posts where they bought a donut, where it just is one single donut in a giant plastic package. And this person was equally underserved with a hot dog here. And this person complaining about an automatic tip charge. This person bought a hardcover for $150. I believe, yeah, this looks like a school textbook, and they got finessed. Got a measly paperback. And this has to be taken in 0.5, but they say this is the front row of the IMAX theater when they're watching the Odyssey. Here's one from here in New York where someone covered up the emergency line with a sticker, unfortunately. And here's someone stole the whole bench. Must be Detroit. And this unfortunate person found a piece of metal in their food. Yikes. And this definitely happens to everybody that has glasses where your hair gets stuck in this part and it's like super annoying. Sometimes you have the normal just kind of people that will complain about anything. Like this guy's saying that, don't put a lime in a nice bourbon, but it looks like the guy didn't even squeeze the lime into it. It just was there. And here's some truly infuriating gas prices. Yikes. I drove out on Route 66, as you can see, earlier this year, and it was pretty tough to find gas, yeah. And this person tried to get a 15-minute parking spot, but they would only let him park for 20 hours. Dang. And these people had their hike interrupted by some folks with a big old speaker. This unfortunate person traveled across the world to deliver a speech, and nobody was there. And here we have a room for rent in downtown Vancouver. This reminds me of the guy who says, I had to build an apartment with galvanized square steel, it looks like that, but it's in real life. And this guy got served a tomatonator. And finally, someone's book got eaten by an actual bookworm. Dang.